Giving a toast at a wedding is common. What's the worst thing you've heard someone say while they were giving one? Best man speech. Back in high school when Bill first told me he liked Jackie, I said Jackie. Oh, but that's how I knew Bill really liked her for who she was as a person. And yeah, Jackie was not very attractive. Father of the bride toasting his daughter. He has 2 other daughters as well. You know, she may not be the smartest or prettiest in the family, but let me tell you, she has a good heart. Like, what the hell was he thinking? Everyone collectively cringed. My friend's father of the bride, just listed off everything he didn't like about the groom in his speech at her wedding. So something like, well, you're not a doctor, you don't have all of your hair, and you're not the smartest man she's dated. But welcome to the family, I guess. Super awkward. The groom's family took the opposite direction and gushed about how much they loved my friend. Made the father look even worse in comparison. My dad is hilarious and loving, but public speaking isn't his strong suit. At my younger sister's wedding a few years ago, he gave this rambling speech where he described her as a plane that just taxied on the runway forever, and you wondered if it would ever take off. He was trying to say she was a late bloomer, but he made this hand motion of a plane just stuck on the runway. We gave him so much grief for that because he basically told everyone she didn't blossom until she met her husband, who's the life of the party. Fast forward to my wedding a few months ago. I jokingly told him he needed to step up his game after my sister's speech. I was sure he'd put more effort into mine after all the teasing he got. Nope. He told everyone that he thought I was autistic when I was young, and ended it by saying, "But I don't think she turned out to be." I spent the rest of my wedding night fake laughing at everyone's autism jokes. Thanks, Dad. Drunk maid of dishonor disclosed that she'd hat-tricked the bride, slept with new husband before he and bride started dating, but still, and bride was unaware, bride's brother, and bride's dad. She started out great, but was too drunk to read her prepared notes and decided to wing it instead. That first dance after dinner was pretty awkward, as bride's parents were very much married. And during it, everyone in the room silently did the math on her conquests based on pertinent details and realized she wasn't 18 for any of the 3 encounters. I was at a table of people who all kind of disliked the bride, and even we all felt awful for her. It was so bad. Wedding cost more than my current house and was held at a yacht club that revoked the family's membership on a morality clause the following day. I went to a wedding where the best man stood up and gave a speech as follows. May your wedding night be like KFC, a bit of breast, a little thigh, and when you're finished, nothing but a greasy box. The bride and groom were furious. A lot of people laughed. The priest was one of them. The bride and groom had been friends for a year and part of the same social circle. Group was supposed to go to a concert, but due to circumstances, only the bride and groom showed up, got drunk, hooked up, and the rest is history. One of the groomsmen told the story about how if he hadn't gotten drunk the night before, he would have went to the concert, and she would be marrying him instead. It might have sounded better in his mind, but it came off as selfish and jealous. Best man said, "I hope you," speaking to the bride, "are well rested up and ready to be stretched because my boy gonna turn you into a pretzel tonight." I'm not even fully sure what that means, but I was sitting right next to the father of the bride, and he was not happy and the mother looked mortified. Best man of a wedding I went to was heavily intoxicated and said something along the lines of, "If only she knew what the girl looked like at your bachelor party that you were in bed with on the last night, she would understand how big of a cat she is for your ugly ass." They didn't make it to their honeymoon. They didn't make it to. My wife has multiple female cousins, and we've been going to their weddings for the past few years as they all get hitched. My 2 favorites so far. 1. Maid of honor older sister gave a quick blurb about the newlyweds and then talked about herself for 5 minutes. I actually predicted she would do this beforehand, and my wife got mad at me for it. 2. Same maid of honor older sister, along with bride's twin sister, putting on a 2-women skit about how bride is actually a secret agent, code names and all, and her mission is to capture the groom. 10 minutes of solid cringe. At my wedding, my lifelong friend, whom with I had a completely platonic and non-romantic relationship with, got up and gave a very drunk, very love-professing speech to me in front of a large room full of people she had never met. She cried and said that the day was such a sad day because she had to let go of the one she was meant to spend her future with. Maybe not the absolute worst thing anyone has ever said in a wedding speech, but definitely the worst for mine, because it kind of changed the vibe for a little bit XD. Everything was good to go by the time the wife and I got to our honeymoon that night, though. My friend went to an out-of-town wedding where he basically only knew the groom and the girl he brought as a date. He, for some reason, felt compelled to do an interpretative dance instead of a speech. No one laughed, and it was dead silent confusion. A friend of mine, John, got married last summer. Our friend, Josh, was his best man, And his toast included something along the lines of, "I remember when John came back to our dorm after their first date. He was clearly in shock and seemed uneasy. After pressing him, he told me that Amy had farted so hard in doggy style that he saw her butthole vibrate like a drum, and that the smell was so powerful that he lost his erection. When he went on another day a few days later, I knew they were meant for each other." I went to the wedding of a college friend who didn't marry until his 40s. The best man's speech was just a long ramble about the groom's single years, how he was a great bachelor, and how much fun he'd had traveling and partying for so many years. He made many not-so-subtle references to the groom having hooked up a lot, which was true, and the whole speech just felt like a funeral for his bachelorhood. I felt so bad for the bride, but they are still together and happy many years later, so no harm was done, I guess. I used to be a banquet server for weddings. There was one wedding I was working that was one of the most uncomfortable I've ever seen. It seemed like none of the guests knew each other, and that nobody wanted to be there. Best man is giving his speech. He's talking about how the groom and him have been best friends forever and whatnot. He ends his 30-second speech by looking at the groom and saying, "So I really don't know insert bride's name very well, but I guess I trust your judgment," then sat down. The venue was booked until 10 p.m. and every single guest had left by 7 p.m. I got the feeling that this may have been an impulse wedding or something by a couple who had not been together long. The best man at my wedding gave a toast that was longer than our ceremony. He wore a costume. He talked more about their teachers from high school than he did about us. He brought in a guitar player that he hired to play 2 parody songs that he wrote that were literally just rehashing what he had already said. We actually had to cut him off so we could serve the meal. My cousin's father-in-law gave a spectacular speech at her wedding. He spent a solid 10 minutes talking about how great his son was at baseball and how everyone thought he was going to go pro while he was playing in undergrad. Then he said, but unfortunately, he was injured in that car accident, and now he's marrying, and that was it. I've never heard someone say something particular egregious. It's just the length that's the issues. Wedding toasts are supposed to be, well, toasts. It's a couple of lines followed by a sip of your raised champagne glass. To the bride and groom, may their love continue to flourish and bring joy to those around them. May they always remember the reasons they fell in love and never forget the laughter, the tears, and the dance parties that brought them here today. Cheers? That's it. I don't understand how it turned into a 10-minute rambling speech where the best man, maid of honor, father of the bride, and maybe even mother of the groom all describe their relationship in minute detail, while everyone stands are awkwardly holding their glass of champagne, hoping it would all just end. Just give a quick toast, drink, then get to the festivities. At a friend's rehearsal dinner, every single person talked about how great the groom is, even the bride's father. Groom was an outgoing life of the party type, and bride was a bit shy and reserved, but also one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I was so pissed everyone just talked about how lucky she was to be marrying him. Thank you for watching this video. Write your comments and don't forget to subscribe.